He didn't know he was dead, and neither did the audience until it was too late. The Sixth Sense wasn't just a film, it was a trapdoor. A quiet whisper that pulled us into a world where grief disguises itself as normalcy and the living carry the dead like shadows. Released in 1999, this slow-burning psychological horror stunned critics and shattered expectations, not just with its twist ending, but with the way it made millions rethink what they'd just watched. Director M. Night Shyamalan's haunting vision reshaped the genre and turned whispering children, color theory, and chilly silences into cinematic weapons. But behind the icy dialogue and ghostly reveals lies a production full of misfires, last-minute changes, secret metaphors, and eerie coincidences that blurred the line between fiction and belief. These are 20 weird facts you didn't know about The Sixth Sense, and once you know them, you'll never see the film the same way again. Fact number 1. Bruce Willis wasn't supposed to be in this movie. Before Bruce Willis became Dr. Malcolm Crowe, he was angry, furious actually. He had just walked off the set of another film, Broadway Brawler, causing its abrupt shutdown. In response, Disney owed damages and needed to calm the storm. So they offered Willis a deal: appear in 2 future films for reduced pay. One of them was The Sixth Sense, a script most execs hadn't even bothered to read fully. It was a consolation prize, a throwaway. Bruce accepted reluctantly, expecting a quiet side project to fulfill a contract, but something happened. As production unfolded, Willis found himself pulled into the quiet psychological depth of the character, a grieving man unaware of his own death. It was unlike any role he had played. Ironically, the film he didn't want became a career-defining moment, and the punishment role turned out to be the one that made audiences cry in silence. Fact number 2. The script was nearly trashed after just one read. When M. Night Shyamalan handed his script to Disney, executives read it and passed. One executive even threw it in the rejection pile without finishing it, citing it as confusing and uneventful. At that point, Shyamalan was mostly unknown, a kid with a vision but no leverage. But then, a junior reader at the agency saw something others didn't: the twist, the subtle layers, the red clues. That reader quietly passed it along to Hollywood producer Barry Mendel, who had just worked with Wes Anderson. Mendel saw potential and convinced his studio to fight for it. In a surprising twist, Disney later realized their mistake and sold the rights to Spyglass Entertainment for just $1 million. That same film went on to gross over $670 million worldwide. A ghost story, almost ghosted by Hollywood. Fact number 3. The color red was banned except when death was near. In most films, red is just a color, but in The Sixth Sense, it was a code. M. Night Shyamalan made a rule: no red allowed in any scene, unless it signified the presence of the supernatural. That's why you'll notice the red balloon at the birthday party, the red door to the basement, the red dress worn by ghosts, even the red handle on the doorknob. These weren't coincidences, they were markers. Silent alarms. The costume and set design teams had to comb through every frame, every object, to avoid accidental reds. The color had to be earned. Shyamalan believed red should be a visual whisper, a bloodstain on reality, hinting that something wasn't right. Once you know the rule, the movie transforms. Suddenly, the real twist isn't just at the end, it's in the wallpaper, hiding in plain sight. Fact number 4. Haley Joel Osment didn't blink during his audition. Hundreds of kids auditioned for the role of Cole Sear. Some cried, some memorized the lines, some faked fear. But when Haley Joel Osment walked into the room, he did something no one expected. He didn't blink once during the entire scene. M. Night Shyamalan noticed. He leaned in. There was something unsettling about this kid's stillness, this eerie calm under pressure. When asked how he prepared, Osment said he read the entire script 3 times before the audition, not just his own lines. That sealed it. No one else came close. Later, on set, Osment's composure allowed for unnerving takes where he stared directly into the lens, whispering chilling lines like, "I see dead people," with the gravitas of a seasoned actor. And still, barely a blink. His performance wasn't just haunting, it was surgical, controlled, almost too controlled, like a kid who wasn't acting, just remembering something he shouldn't have seen. Fact number 5. The twist was spoiled in the film's own marketing. Yes, The Sixth Sense's biggest secret was nearly undone before audiences even stepped into the theater. One international trailer, released weeks ahead of the US premiere, showed a flashback montage of Bruce Willis's character that strongly hinted at his true condition. The studio panicked. They scrambled to pull the ad from circulation, but the damage was done. In some territories, early viewers walked into the film already suspicious of the twist. To cover it, marketers leaned hard into the ghost story angle, downplaying the psychological aspect, amplifying the scare factor. Posters showed icy stares, taglines referenced fear, but beneath all the misdirection was the uncomfortable truth. A film built on secrecy had almost been sabotaged by its own hype. Sometimes, the real ghost is marketing. Fact number 6. The line, "I see dead people," was almost cut for being too cheesy. It's one of the most quoted lines in modern cinema. But at one point during editing, producers debated cutting it. They worried it sounded forced, too on the nose. One exec reportedly said, "It feels like a trailer moment, not something a real kid would say." Monsieur Night Shyamalan disagreed. He fought to keep the line, arguing it was the emotional hinge of the entire story, not just a ghost reveal. During test screenings, the audience reaction to that single line was electric. Gasps, silence, then whispers. It worked because of how it was delivered. Osment didn't shout it. He whispered it like a confession, a trauma, a truth too heavy for a child. In the end, the studio relented. The line stayed. And what they feared would be too cheesy became a haunting echo across pop culture. Fact number 7. Toni Collette didn't know it was a horror film. When Australian actress Toni Collette signed on to play Cole's mother, Lynn, she thought she was entering a domestic drama. The script, though eerie, struck her more as an emotional family story than a ghost narrative. It wasn't until the film premiered with audience screams and gasps in theaters that she realized what genre she had walked into. Collette approached every scene as a mother on the edge of emotional collapse, not as a side character in a ghost story. Her tears, confusion, desperation, they weren't reactions to horror. They were raw, human grief. The scene in the car, when Cole reveals his secret, wasn't played for shock. It was played for healing. Ironically, by misunderstanding the genre, Collette delivered a performance that grounded the entire film, and in doing so, she made the horror feel real. Fact number 8. The temperature on set dropped only during ghost scenes. It became a running joke among the crew. When ghosts appeared, the room turned cold. Not metaphorically, literally. Several key scenes, especially those shot in confined sets like the kitchen or bathroom, saw sudden drops in temperature picked up by crew thermometers. Cameras fogged. Actors shivered. The technical team blamed faulty HVAC systems, old wiring, or bad insulation. But every time they investigated, nothing. The cold spots never aligned with time of day or location, only with certain scenes. Shyamalan, superstitious by nature, began embracing the phenomenon. He instructed actors to lean into the discomfort to channel it. He even rewrote scenes slightly to highlight the chill as a visual motif for the supernatural. A fictional world where ghosts bring cold, filmed on a set where something invisible chilled the air. Fact number 9. A deleted scene was cut for being too psychologically disturbing. There was one scene that didn't make the final cut. It involved Cole discovering a ghost child trapped in a bathroom mirror, but not just appearing. The child would mimic Cole's every movement with a half-second delay, and its reflection would gradually become more mutilated as the scene progressed. Shyamalan filmed it, screened it, and hesitated. Test audiences reportedly squirmed. Some even walked out not because it was gory, but because the psychological unease lingered long after the scene ended. In a rare move, the director shelved the footage. He felt it pulled focus from the emotional narrative and plunged the film into unnecessary surrealism. The footage was never released publicly. Only fragments exist in storyboard form. A scene too disturbing for a film already about death, trauma, and ghosts? That says everything. Fact number 10. Bruce Willis's costume never changes, and it's not a mistake. Watch closely. Throughout the entire film, Dr. Malcolm Crowe wears the same outfit, a muted shirt, tie, and long coat. It's subtle, almost invisible, but once you know the twist, it becomes glaringly obvious. The costume department was under strict orders. No visible costume progression for Bruce Willis's character. No wardrobe evolution. No seasonal adjustments. He is stuck in time, literally frozen in the clothes he died in. Even the lighting on him stays slightly cooler. Shadows fall heavier. Reflections are scarce. Viewers miss it on first watch, but on the second, the stillness is deafening. It wasn't laziness, it was a clue, a silent signal that something was wrong. The clothes he died in became the clothes he haunted in. Fact number 11. M. Night Shyamalan appears in the film for a reason. Directors love cameos. Hitchcock did it. Tarantino does it. But when Shyamalan appears as Dr. Hill, the skeptical ER physician, he's not just showing off. He's serving a narrative function. Shyamalan originally cast another actor in the role, but after rehearsals, he realized the tone didn't match. The doctor needed to be detached, a bit too clinical, almost suspiciously calm. Someone who questions Cole's injuries, but not enough to dig deeper. So Shyamalan stepped in, not to draw attention, but to maintain a certain emotional distance, the kind only someone who fully understands the twist could play naturally. It's one of the quietest cameos in thriller history, but also one of the most loaded with subtext. Fact number 12. The ghosts don't know they're dead, but they follow rules. In The Sixth Sense, ghosts appear suddenly, violently, emotionally, but look deeper, they follow a code. They return to places tied to trauma. They repeat actions. They don't interact with each other. And they don't respond to anything except Cole's fear or empathy. Shyamalan didn't just invent creepy apparitions, he created a psychological system for the dead. Every ghost is stuck in a loop, a fragment of unresolved emotion. Some scream, some cry, some whisper. All of them ache for closure they can't articulate. This internal logic made the horror feel grounded, almost plausible. These weren't poltergeists, they were memories that refused to fade. And once you recognize the patterns, every ghost becomes a puzzle. Every appearance, a coded cry for help. Fact number 13. The entire film was shot in sequence, a rare and risky choice. Most films are shot out of order. Scenes are rearranged based on location, budget, or actor availability. But for The Sixth Sense, Night Shyamalan insisted on shooting chronologically from beginning to end. It was a logistical nightmare. Locations had to be locked down for weeks, schedules had to bend, budgets stretched. But the reward? Emotional momentum. Haley Joel Osment, just 10 years old at the time, was able to build Cole's fear and emotional evolution organically. Toni Collette could track her character's unraveling with terrifying authenticity, and Bruce Willis, unknowingly dead, sank deeper into his character's confusion and detachment as the days went on. By the time they filmed the final scenes, the performances weren't just acted, they were lived. It's one of the few horror films that feels more tragic the closer it gets to the end, because the actors experienced it that way too. Fact number 14. M. Night Shyamalan wrote the twist ending first and built backward. Most screenplays start with characters, conflict, then structure, but Shyamalan did the opposite. The first thing he wrote was the twist, that Malcolm was dead all along. He then asked a question no studio wants to hear. Can I make the audience rewatch the entire film in their minds after just one scene? He reverse-engineered the plot. Every interaction, every line of dialogue, every blocking decision had to work in two directions on first viewing and in hindsight. This required surgical precision. Characters couldn't make eye contact with Malcolm. Conversations had to be one-sided. Visual cues needed to appear normal, but become haunting in retrospect. It wasn't just a twist, it was a trapdoor that snapped shut at the very end, forcing audiences to fall backward through everything they thought they understood. Fact number 15. A single line of dialogue accidentally gave away the ending twice. During early screenings, a few sharp-eyed viewers caught on to the twist early. The culprit? A throwaway line Bruce Willis delivers in a conversation with Cole's mother. "I don't think I can help you anymore." It's a line meant to show Malcolm's professional limits. But in hindsight, it reads like a man slowly realizing he doesn't exist. Even the way the scene is framed, Collette never directly responds to him, never meets his eyes. Shyamalan considered cutting or reworking the line, but his editor argued to keep it as a reward for observant viewers, something to reward rewatchers and deepen the twist's credibility. Ironically, the same line that gave away the ending also made it believable, because ghosts don't whisper their truths. They let them slip out just enough for you to wonder if you misheard. Fact number 16. The most terrifying ghost was based on a real urban legend. The girl under the bed, vomiting, pale, eyes pleading. One of the most disturbing ghosts Cole encounters was inspired not by cinema but by a Korean urban legend. The story tells of a sick girl poisoned by her mother to keep her quiet, only to return as a spirit who reveals her fate to others. Shyamalan discovered this tale while researching cross-cultural ghost myths. The tragedy of it, the maternal betrayal, the isolation, the silencing deeply resonated. He adapted it with minimal dialogue, using only body language and that unforgettable tape. But here's the strange part. After the film's release, stories began circulating online about real-life cases of Munchausen by proxy, where parents harmed their children for attention. Some viewers claimed they only learned about the disorder because of that ghost. A fictional whisper, uncovering real-world horrors that were hiding in plain sight. Fact number 17. Haley Joel Osment was nominated for an Oscar, but the Academy didn't believe his age. At just 11 years old, Osment delivered a performance many adult actors couldn't match. When he received an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor, many in the industry assumed it was a publicity move until they saw his screen test. Studio insiders revealed that some Academy members thought his performance was too mature to be real. Rumors swirled that Osment had been fed lines through an earpiece. Others believed his scenes were stitched together from dozens of takes. They were wrong. Osment's scenes were often shot in long, unbroken takes, some requiring emotional consistency for several minutes at a time. Directors praised his uncanny emotional control and preternatural timing. He didn't win the Oscar, but he did something rarer. He made people doubt reality. Because no child that young should see death. That clearly unless they've lived with it. Fact number 18. The final twist was hidden in the first 10 minutes and no one saw it. Right after the cold open, we see Malcolm and his wife at dinner. The scene feels warm, if a little distant. They barely speak. He tries to break the silence. She doesn't respond. It plays like a strained marriage. But look again. She never makes eye contact. She never acknowledges him. She places the check on his side of the table, then walks away without saying a word. And yet, viewers missed it. Every single test screening showed the audience interpreting the moment as awkward but still within the realm of normal. Shyamalan later said this was the scene he was proudest of. It gave the entire game away but did it softly, without tricks, just silence, space, and implication. It's not misdirection, it's cinematic hypnosis. Fact number 19. The film was edited backwards, starting from the twist. Most editors begin at the beginning. They shape the story chronologically, smoothing out performances and pacing as they go. But not for The Sixth Sense. Editor Andrew Monsheen started from the last 20 minutes, the big reveal, and worked backwards through the film. Why? Because the ending didn't just need to land, it had to retroactively transform everything that came before it. Each earlier scene was adjusted to serve that final twist. Sound design was stripped of overlapping dialogue. Cuts were made one frame earlier than normal to give characters a disconnected, drifting feeling. Even silence was weaponized, timed to coincide with the audience's subconscious click moments. It wasn't just about telling a story. It was about engineering a second film hidden inside the first one, waiting to be discovered on rewatch. And that's what made the twist legendary. You didn't just watch it happen. You realized it had already happened. Fact number 20. The film triggered real-life reports of supernatural encounters. After its release, theaters began receiving odd feedback. Some viewers left shaken, not by the twist, but by the feeling they were being watched during the film. Ushers at select cinemas reported guests staying behind after the credits, staring at empty screens, silent, unmoving. More unsettling? Fan letters sent to Shyamalan claiming that The Sixth Sense had unlocked old memories of family members who had passed, of imaginary friends that now seemed like something else, of rooms that always felt cold as a child. Psychologists noted a small uptick in patients reporting non-traumatic hallucinations. Paranormal forums exploded with claims of seeing red in dreams. The film didn't just entertain, it echoed. Because when fiction holds up a mirror to the dark corners of belief, sometimes something looks back. Bonus fact: the ring was never supposed to fall. In the final moments of the film, as Malcolm's wife sleeps on the couch, his wedding ring slips from her hand and hits the floor. The sound is delicate, barely there. But for Malcolm, it's the revelation. He looks down, sees his hand, no ring, and everything shatters. What most don't know is that the falling ring wasn't in the original script. The idea came during a reshoot when Shyamalan realized the twist needed something visceral, a physical clue that bypassed dialogue. So they added it. One prop, one sound effect, one shot. The sound of the ring hitting the floor was amplified in post, given unnatural clarity like a bullet in a silent church. That small, metallic sound became the emotional detonation of the film. It wasn't just the clue that gave the twist away, it was the sound of denial breaking. Because sometimes, the dead don't see the truth in word, they hear it in what's been lost. Which of these facts changed the way you see The Sixth Sense? Tell us in the comments which details stayed with you, and which film you want us to dig into next. Like, subscribe. And remember, not every twist happens on screen. Some are still hiding between the frames.